Empathy is one of the biggest strengths in CX, but without boundaries, it can also become one of the hardest things to manage.
Today, we are unpacking what happened when customers' emotion meet business reality.
CX teams want to advocate for the customer. They want to make things right and help people feel heard. But behind every interaction, there are also policies, margins, retention goals, team capacity, and other tough trade-offs.
So how do you care without overcorrecting? How do you protect your team from emotionally charged conversation? And how do you build a system that help people respond with clarity?
That is what we're discussing today with Caroline Wilson, Director of CX at Carpe.
We'll get into the psychology of how CX work, the boundaries leader needs to set, and how SOPs, sentiment, and how AI can help teams meet customer wherever they are.
All without losing sight of the business. This is CX After Hours. Let's get into it.
All right, welcome to CX After Hours, the podcast for retail and e-commerce for CX leaders, scaling customer experience in the real world. Today, we step back from the queue to talk honestly about the trade-offs, the pressure, and decisions that shape whether customers come back, spend more, and stay loyal. So we're back in studio.
In New York City.
In New York City. We had a great episode yesterday with Lior Cohen. So if you have not listened to that one yet or watched that one, please go and do it.
Definitely.
And so I'm Guillaume. I'm a co-host here with Anya. I'm a tech entrepreneur. I spent 10 years in San Francisco, and recently 3 years ago, which is not so recent anymore, I made a big moved to e-commerce, moved to CX, and I'm now the founder and CEO of Yuma.ai, and we automate customer support with AI. Anya.
I'm Anya. I have spent 7 years working in-house. The last 3, I have worked as a fractional CXO across a bunch of different brands in CPG and direct-to-consumer. We are incredibly blessed to be joined by the one and only Caroline Wilson here in our New York City studio today. Caroline, do you want to give an intro?
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. So I'm Caroline. I kind of fell into CX, like I think most people in CX have. So I actually grew up moving around the world, and I originally was interested in photojournalism and documentary storytelling, which I think is kind of how I really fell into CX and was interested in like the story and the background and like what people are saying in the subtext.
Yeah.
I started in brick and mortar retail. I'm still working with humans in person, which is a really unique experience in COVID, so you can imagine. And then transitioned into e-com at a wellness company. And now I lead CX at a very high growing D2C company, TPG.
Incredible. I truly I'm like, what is retail like? My first job ever was, a cashier at a grocery store. So remember that experience, but CX at retail high level. What's a typical day like?
Yeah, so I was in store. So it was really interesting to work with, retail employees. I think that's not a career for all people.
Yeah.
So you definitely have to deal with a lot of team transitions and things like that, making sure that people can get trained and ready to hit the floor very quickly. It's also really hard, right? The same way that phone is voice is such a high pressure channel.
Yep.
Because you don't have time to sit and think, right? If you're writing an email or chat, even you have time to think. It's even more pressure in person, right? You have the person right in front of you. And so I think really helping the team be calm. If you don't know the answer, that's okay. Let's find someone who does, right? And then it was really interesting. I think that's led me more to the CX side of things rather than just support. A lot of retail service is sales.
Absolutely.
It's not just support, right? And so I think it's really interesting. How do you blend here, let me help you find the thing, and also let me try to upsell, and also all of those pieces, right? And so that was really interesting foundation.
Let me go back on that because that's pretty cool that you started face to face with people. Any learning from that experience that you kept and that you are applying now today, in managing CX at fast growing brands.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you have someone in front of you, there's a level of personal care that you have to take, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are looking at a human in the eyes and you have to speak to them in a respectful way. You have to try to support them and meet their needs. And so I think that has bled over into like white glove service, and how do you really bring that high touch experience to the customer experience at scale, right? And I think that's a unique challenge that a lot of companies are facing.
100%. Yeah. In person, you are definitely not saying like, hi, insert customer first name
Exactly.
macro.
There's no shortcuts.
There's no shortcuts. You are, dealing with it IRL. But oh my gosh, retail to digital CX.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you are going to have plenty of examples for us as we start our first of 2 segments here, CX After Hours. This one is called The Vent. And this is a time when we are able to just go off on something that is bothering us with CX, whether it is, again, a customer that it's just a super emotionally charged situation, whatever it is, you'll have 45 seconds to go on off. And Caroline, your time starts in your time starts in 3, 2, 1.
All right, here's my take. Customers are mean.
Oh.
And mean is relative.
Yes.
Depending on the company you work for, the policies, the customer avatar. And your responsibility as a CX leader is to protect your team and defend them, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we don't call out enough the like trauma that frontline agents experience on a day-to-day basis. And so I think as a CX leader, you're balancing the customer experience and the business needs, right? And so you have to understand that if you're in a business where you're pushing retention or, different tactics and the policies are tighter, that is going to create a little bit more friction for your customers, and you need to resource and support your human frontline team accordingly, right? So that's tools, resources, emotional wellness courses, mental health resources, things like that.
This was a great take. I wonder if we had our audience in front of us right now and asking to raise the hand for all the people that sing the same. How many hands are in the air right now?
Hand if you've been personally victimized by a customer. And let me tell you, 4 years doing phones with, in energy where people's electric bills are shut off in dead of winter. The kind of bawling in the call center, it was a everyday experience. And I think it's really interesting. I kind of have a follow-up on to your point about being a manager. It's something that I think about a lot is how do you get the most out of your team? Because you also are liable to the business in terms of performance metrics. And yet you as the leader are in these, higher level conversations where you might know this is not going to change. This thing that is driving customers insane that your team is needing to kind of fend off is not going to change for another 6 months. How do you balance that? What have been some of your strategies?
Yeah. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges for any CX leader. And I think a lot of people feel this right now, right? Your job is to balance the business and the human side, both your team and the customers, right? And those aren't always the same thing. And so how do you find that middle? I've been really interested in, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Goldilocks theory. So essentially it's like in astrophysics. It's like the correct pieces of chemicals needed to make a planet or a star system viable for life. And so it's the Goldilocks theory because, right, if you
just right.
Just right. And so I think what is that balance between, just enough friction that you're not refunding left and right.
Yep.
Right? Because that's bad for the business. And ultimately, and I think there's a lot of CX leaders actually out in the space advocating for, ultimately, you do need to protect the business because if the business goes away, your customers don't have that product anymore. And so by advocating for the business and pushing that, you are actually serving your customers.
Absolutely.
And so finding that middle ground between what is protecting the business and what is protecting the human.
And also the humans, you're protecting your team too, employment and really interesting.
And I think that's the piece that again, in CX, you're not always in control of all of the decisions that are being made, right? You are part of the ecosystem, not the entire ecosystem. And so I think you have to figure out with the cards that you have, how do you make the best hand, right? And I think that's like your responsibility to me as a CX leader is you need to figure out, okay, this is the decision that we've made as a business. How do I protect my team and resource them so that they can do their best and not burn out and we don't have churn and attrition and all of that kind of stuff.
100%.
Let me go back on what you said about, the meanness of some customers. It does happen. It does happen.
The customer is not always right. We need to break that. They are not always right. In fact, often quite wrong.
Let's bring some optimism here. Like I'm sure sometimes you have very happy customers that do say very nice things that are very happy about the service, right? Do you have example of those, like to bring up the, happy customers?
Yeah.
It happens,
oh my gosh.
Right?
Oh my gosh, it absolutely does. And I think it's really important to celebrate that, right? The fires always get more attention. And that's why it's really important to be intentional in celebrating the wins too, right? If an agent gets a call out from a customer, celebrate the heck out of that.
How do you do that? Do you share it on Slack?
Oh yeah, 100% on Slack. I have taken to posting, like I go through and look at reviews from different platforms and I'll share like 10 reviews a week with the team just to like boost them, like, hey, we're doing a good job, right? I'm really big on, I say this a lot, but watering the flowers, not the weeds.
Ooh,
right?
Yeah.
And so I think there is something to, obviously, again, the fires, when they're going, are really easy to drown everything out. It's really easy to forget that there's good things happening. So you have to be really intentional about being like, hey, there are good things happening. Let's celebrate those and focus on those. And see how we can continue to like boost those wins.
That's really
and this is like a weekly things you try to do like on a weekly basis?
No,
or
I
like
do it on a weekly
basis.
basis.
Okay, like on Monday, like it's
every Monday
Okay,
I
so
do like,
we start
our
the
results
week.
and like leaderboard and then
CSAT
reviews.
comments, all the stuff. What are people saying on Google Business Review? Like they will name names. And I mean, sometimes it's the AI tool and you're like, nice. But yeah, I think, something that an old boss always told me is like, because again, CX is often viewed as a cost center, the kids table, you have to build the CX brand within the company that you're at. And part of that is being the hype man. In addition to protecting, it's like, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to spend an hour out of my week putting together like a weekly CSAT review where I'm showing the positive reviews. I'm like celebrating our stats and also putting them in a language that someone in brand marketing might understand because they're relating it to a, CX experience that they've had with a brand.
Yeah.
So I think that's really, really important.
And do you share that only with the CX team or there are things you also share with the rest of the company?
We also have a channel where we do share with the company as well. But yeah, I mostly with the CX team because I think that's a huge piece of like, how do you empower your people and like celebrate your people? Absolutely. I want to double click on that thing you were saying about like, sharing insights with like the marketing team and things
voice
like
of
that, right?
The customer.
Like sees that. Yeah. All of those things, I think that's huge in e-com right now because like as the world of, advertising and stuff gets more expensive, how do you really use that flywheel strategy? How do you make your biggest fans your biggest advocates and have them be the ones who are bringing new people to you? And so I think that's where it's really important for, CX teams to share, here's the impact that our company, our products, our team is having. And here's why, here's what we can share. Here's why it's important, all of those kinds of things.
Going back to like mean customers, sorry, we're just going to talk about it one more time.
It's gonna be
what I will say is, and again, like I have pull on my heartstrings. When a customer is nice, I'm like, what can I send you for free? How can I, again, not just like normal nice, but like, we are humans behind the phones, behind the screens, and we also have, some level of agency to be able to, build a more intimate connection with this customer. Who, I'm always sending people stuff.
Is this a tips for customer to say like, if you want something, be nice and you might get it instead of being mean and you
I'm
might
not
get
gonna
it?
lie. If you're nicer, like there are people answering these things. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think we live in a world now where people are, have had bad bots for the last 20, 25 years.
Yep.
Now we're in the age of AI. And so people are so desensitized. And as a society, we're so polarized.
Yes.
And I get it. Like money is tight. The world is stressful.
Yeah.
And they just need a place to let it out. But
I know.
at the end of the day, you're letting it out on a human who's trying to help you. And that's not necessarily fair. And so I think it shows that the fact that like you're willing to go above and beyond for someone who was just the tiniest bit nice.
Kind of nice. Yeah.
Shows you how like low the bar is sometimes
Yes.
for that like yes moment.
I know.
And I think that that's exactly those are the kinds of places where it's like really important to make sure that your team is not feeling that like fatigue.
Yeah. Because also as a CXer, I mean, and ideally if you're someone who's doing the day-to-day, I mean, being able to surprise and delight someone by, you know, I just had someone like be like, oh, I lost the lid for this bottle. It's a water bottle. I'm like, don't worry about it. We can't send you a replacement lid, but I'm going to send you an entirely new one. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's I know the margins on it. I know that this is going to be something that is going to make this customer, who, by the way, has already high LTV, really happy. And it makes you feel really fulfilled and excited and happy. And so, it's,
Yeah. And the ROI on that is like that person then goes out and is like, oh my gosh, I just had the best experience.
Yes.
And all you did is the basic, which is give them a replacement for a product, right?
Yeah.
And so I think those are absolutely like the moments as a business where you decide what are those strategic points where you can be a little bit more flexible and go above and beyond and make that exception, because it really makes a difference. So
Definitely.
So Caroline, bouncing back on what you said earlier, like about, you know, the reality of the business, like, how do you balance like genuinely making a customer whole with the reality of the business? Like,
yeah, I think it's hard. And I think every CX leader is trying to figure it out.
and do you have strict guideline that, you know, agents have to follow, or like, do you give like, you know, a budget for, I mean, how do you give like tools for the agent to be able to like be responsive and, you know, do good when good needs to be done?
Yeah, 100%. So I think clarity is kindness. So I think that as a CX leader, your job is to figure out what are those moments where we can make an exception, right? And those are hard. And that is very much strategy and balancing the business case and doing the math and figuring out the ROI on that. But I think in those moments that can make or break an experience, that makes or breaks whether the customer comes back, whether they go and share negative reviews with their friends, whether they go and share a positive review, right? And so I think taking that time and deciding what are those moments where we can make an exception, what are those moments where we want to be really intentional about going above and beyond and proving to the customer that we're there for you, we want to help you. I think the other piece of clarity is kindness is that also is very beneficial for your team. When you set those guidelines out and you have those SOPs in place and you're very clear on when those exceptions should happen. There's not that emotional and mental fatigue of figuring out, should I make an exception? Should I not? And obviously in CX, we're always trying to hire people who have that high EQ and can think on the fly and figure out those moments. But they shouldn't have to. That's your job.
I love that.
Follow-up question on that. Like, what's a good attribute for, you know, like someone working in CX that's gonna, you know, like, because you see a lot, you say, I don't want to go back on the mean customer, but like you do see a lot, like you have, what's a good attribute? Like, how do you look, what do you look for in people?
Yeah. So I think high EQ for sure.
Okay.
I think empathy is, the number one thing that you see in CX for sure. And I think a lot of CX leaders and a lot of agents try to create an experience that they wish they had had, right? So I think it's interesting if you get a whole bunch of CXers together to like hear their background, hear where they came from, hear how they grew up, etc. And I think you start to see like some through lines and some parallels. I think resilience, I hate that word, but it's so true. Resilience, like being able to bounce back. And again, I think that's where your job as the CX leader is to create space for your team to process through those things so that they can bounce back a little bit faster and come, you know, come back to the fight a little bit stronger.
100%. And I think documentation, SOPs, doing the segmentation work to determine, you know, what are our customer tiers? What are the ones that, you know, absolutely, it's a hell yes, we're going to send you a replacement immediately, versus like, you know, where there's agent discretion. And, you know, one of my, I'm always bringing it back to one of my old bosses, but like really, I mean, this is how you learn CX is like through, I mean, one, you figure it out by yourself, but you also are, you know, hearing phrases that people say and you're like, oh my gosh. And it's, you know, I think part of customer experience, and I think some of the most progressive and great brands have customer experience and employee experience working very hand in hand. Because again, the happier your team is, the better the experience that they're going to be able to give customers. And I think that, something that I talked about a lot when I was, directly managing frontline agents is like, how do you give them the guidelines, the boundaries where, if they want to refund someone $200, their discretion, great. I'm not going to ask questions. We just need to make sure that they're making this smart and like how do we give them actually that strategic thinking of like, okay, I'm going to refund this $200 because this customer has spent 20 grand with us versus this is, again, a customer's second order. I'm actually going to refund them the $1,600 because it didn't show up. And it's like, okay, well, we got to, let's slow the roll there. How do you do that? And like, what does a good playbook, and apparently we just learned yesterday, we shouldn't use that word, like
playbook.
I'm like, I don't know.
Episode 4.
Yeah.
Like, go back and listen to episode 4.
Yes, listen to the last episode. Apparently playbook is out. But, in your internal knowledge base, in coaching, how do you give that flexibility while also trying to empower your team to feel like they have the agency and the critical thinking to be able to determine what is, the right resolution that's also, good for the business?
Yeah, 100%. I think, like you said, the boundary, you're creating a container of safety where the agents feel
Gosh, are you a
empowered.
therapist?
Lots of good expression today. That's great. I love that.
Wow, I'm in therapy.
But but it's so interesting, right? Like you look at so many of the things that we work through, a lot of it is like very trauma oriented. And so like for me, you talked about CX and EX are very similar.
Yes.
For me, since I was a manager in retail, my employees are my customers.
Absolutely.
Right? They have their customers
Yes.
and my employees are my customers.
I love that.
So my job is to keep them happy, help them figure it out, right? Like those kinds of things.
Guillaume's like, no.
No, it's good. I have many questions. I actually have 3 questions.
Okay.
The first one is for Anya.
Oh.
Anya, like you mentioned your ex-boss. It's Michael Bear.
It's not Michael
Okay,
Bear.
I was going to
Michael
say
Bear.
it's episode 2, so you need to go and
Also
watch
episode 2.
episode
No,
2.
this is my amazing boss, Aaron Botta. Not here yet.
Soon, season 2.
Soon, season 2. LA
Caroline,
season.
second question, if I don't forget. Okay, so you told us before the show that you did live in many countries, and I was wondering, like, what is the impact of that
Yes.
on what you do today? Because like all those, great expression you have, and like, did you? I mean, is it because you learned that their like culture and all of that? Like,
I'm
did it have
convinced.
a big impact?
Yeah. I mean, I think
love it.
living around the world, you learn so many different cultures and you understand the way that different people think. And you learn to listen. And I think that that's really important, right? And I think it's very easy to sit here and be like, oh, this is the ideal playbook or or oh, these are how we can set boundaries, or oh, these SOPs will make everyone feel perfect. The reality is we are in the work of dealing with humans, and a human cannot be put into an SOP, something like that, right? So I think acknowledging that customers are human, so you can try to map out every possible scenario. That's not always going to work. And you can try to support the team in every possible way, and there are still just human nuances. So I think that's where having like a really strong background in like understanding people, and that's where like the photojournalism and documentary storytelling comes in, of like listening. What are you saying underneath what you're saying something, but what is actually underneath that thing that you're saying, right?
Reading
the
between the
subtext,
lines,
the emotions, and picking up on those things. And I think that those are all characteristics that really like high level CX leaders aspire to.
I really have a conspiracy theory. I mean, I was international affairs in Spanish, but I like genuinely think that people who are, Eli Weiss, episode 1, fabulous episode, watch
We're
it.
gonna name all the episodes today.
Sorry. Shameless plug. But I mean, he is travel, like part of his lifestyle is like constantly traveling. He takes his kids. Like, I really think there's an intrinsic curiosity about people that you need to possess. And to your point about humans and customers, they cannot be, static in an SOP. All SOPs are like living, breathing documents. That's why I'm always just like, tag me in it. If it's something weird, tag me in it. And it could fully change exactly like everything that I previously thought about what a policy should be.
I think that's an important part of being a leader generally, but especially in CX because it moves and changes so quickly.
So fast.
The humility to acknowledge that maybe you don't know everything.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes things change. And that's really important and really hard. But I think it helps your team, it helps your customers, it helps the business. But it's also very difficult to be like, yes, I'm leading an org and this many people and whatever. And at the same time, I was wrong about this. You know, and I think that having that humility, right? Like the customer is not always right. Sometimes, or the customer is not always right, but sometimes they're not wrong. And so again, if
sometimes they're right as well.
Right,
Sometimes
exactly.
they are right.
If the customer is right, we have to listen to them. If the agent, my customer, is right, I have to listen to my agent, right? They actually are on the front lines in a way that I'm not.
Yes.
It's funny, we have the same in software. We often say like, it's customer's fault. And it's just like, no, it's a problem with the software. You know, it's a way to escape saying like, you have a bug, you have an issue, something's not clear. And actually it's our problem.
I mean, that's what it comes back to, right? Is like, you know, you could have an absolutely irate customer upset, you know, about XYZ, but I mean, they did just spend $100 to overnight something. It is now day 5.
Yeah.
They deserved what they paid for. Like, you know what I mean? And we are not delivering that. So there is also this onus on yourself, on the company.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's the other, you know, as a CX leader, you are holding space for all of these different things at the same time. And maybe we're all just insane a little bit. I don't know.
Okay, so my third question, I didn't forget about it. This is going to be practical and annoying, but I was wondering because we were talking about, you know, getting not freedom, but, you know, getting guideline for the team to be able to do good and refunds and all of that. Do you track that? Is there a way for you to measure it and say, you know, this is the amount of refund the team did? Like, you know, if I'm a CX leader tomorrow, like, how do I put this in place so I have good tracking to, you know, defend this to, you know, the exec team or whatever, and then to yourself know, like, what the team's doing?
Yeah, so I think from a strategic standpoint, it's easy to break out, right? Like, you know who your top players are.
Yep.
And so for your newer agents or your mid-tier teams, you maybe give them the cases that are a little bit less complicated, that require less nuance, that can be more by SOP, right? Then you let your top players handle tenured, they're strategic, they understand, they're working closer with you. You let them handle the more nuanced gray cases.
Absolutely.
And then based on that, then you can report. You can say, look, this team specifically is focused on, like, I think a lot of brands have like an escalations team. Then you can report specifically on like, okay, this is what the escalations team did, and here's the percentage of conversations and blah, blah, blah.
And very practically, sorry, I'm trying to get into
Shopify order tags, Shopify tags.
Okay.
That's my
Shopify,
thing.
but like, okay, do you like, so you create team in your help desk, and after, how do you do the routing, you know, between those like easy things, and then how do you escalate, and how do you, like, do you have
I mean, I think
a specific way to do that?
like routing rules and
yeah.
keywords and things like that,
Keyword
right?
mostly,
Sentiment.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So you can put any number of factors together, right? I think it varies on the business, but like, you know what your escalations are. And so you start to put those together and amalgamate them into like, this is the escalations queue. And so
it's the same it's this exact same situation if you're implementing AI, right? Of like, we know that AI is going to handle, you know, again, these lower, more transactional related policy, yes, no, binary related questions. I mean, again, now AI can do a ton of stuff, but for the more complex ones, oh no, we're seeing that there is like multiple back and forths here. This needs a resolution. The person who's going to be able to resolve this fastly, you know, efficiently, and with all of the context that they need that works for the business as well as for this customer, it's going to be your tenured agents. And then I think from a reporting perspective, you know, again, Shopify tags, like, it is pretty, I mean, I don't know, this has been my method, is like, I specifically tag orders that I refund or send replacements, and I will be like, you know, CX replacement, lost in transit. Like, I will specifically tag and categorize why I'm refunding, why I'm replacing, and then I'm also tracking those customers' LTV over time. What's your strategy?
I think you can get as nuanced.
You can get super detailed.
Or, like 100%. You can get very granular with it. And it's just like, ultimately deciding like how much does this impact the business? What is the percentage? Is this worth tracking with that level of granularity? And most of the time the answer is yes, right? In the age of CX, where it is very much like retention and LTV focused, we've shifted out of that support space. And I think absolutely it's important to track these things. Now, to what degree? I think it depends on the business,
on how much
the leader,
time you
all of those things.
have.
Exactly. Time, etc. But I think then once you have the data, you can slice and dice it to, you know, look at the different things that you need.
That's awesome. I think that's good time for us to make a small break.
Okay.
And we'll be back on the show in just a moment.
AI does not have emotions.
Yeah.
And so a human might get an all caps ticket and immediately react and say, oh, this person is angry.
Yeah.
AI doesn't care.
All right. We are back in studio for CX After Hour with Caroline. And we're going to start, we're going to get back right into it actually with our second segment of the show. And you're getting used to it by now, but it's called the 10% fixed.
Yeah.
And it is something small that, you know, you think you should do that's going to have a very high impact. Caroline, what's your 10% fix?
Okay, I'm going to go non-businessy here,
Great.
away from SOPs and all the things. I would say have a dance party. So
What?
I was not ready for that.
No,
But-
yep.
but
Okay,
yeah.
here's why. Here's why.
With whom?
You have your team, yourself, right? Like go
Yourself.
into an office. Like if you're in the office, go into the bathroom and have a dance party. If your agents work from home, like, okay, so for example, you're about to call a super angry customer back. Turn on a song and hype yourself up, get in the mood. Like,
Oh, yeah.
like
you're, right.
you're ready, right? It's like Rocky moment. Like, not that you're going into a battle. Like, you kind of got to hype yourself up and be like, cool, I got this. Q is high and SLAs are breaching left and right.
Yeah.
Take 10 minutes, get the team on Slack in a huddle, and just do a team dance party. Sometimes I think we're in an age now where we're like optimizing.
How often do you do those?
Not too often.
That's more fun.
I was like,
but it's a real thing. It's a real thing. Okay.
Yeah, but I think like we're in an age now where we're like optimizing and biohacking and where can I increase productivity and efficiency, and like sometimes we forget that we're humans and generally all you need is a little bit of sunshine and a little bit of movement and you're gonna feel better.
Sunshine, yes. I agree with the sunshine. Yeah. And the movement.
Yeah. How that is, I'm mind blown. I mean, so how many people are on camera? Like how many people are like,
think,
no.
right? I think a lot of people are not, and that's okay, right? But I think ultimately giving space, it's not, I think so much for me as a leader is not forcing people to do it, but creating the space for the people who do want to do it. And at some point, if you create that container often enough, people will feel comfortable enough to start to participate.
And it's such a hard thing, right? Because again, like you are balancing these complex, sometimes negative emotions, right? But then at the same time, it's like, it's not that serious. Like we are not, we're not curing brain cancer here. Like this is a product that a customer bought that, ideally as a brand, we've put the education out there. Like, they were consenting to buy this product.
Yeah.
Let's do what we can to make it right. And we're human. What, Guillaume?
No, I'm trying to put in my mind, like, how did you do the first dance party? And like, who started dancing first and how you brought that up? And I was like,
shout out to my old boss. So like I worked at a wellness company. And so that was our CEO. This was her whole thing, was like, you have to move through the emotions. Like, don't let it get stuck in you, right?
Yes.
And so I think there is, like we were talking about, a lot of burnout, frustration, exhaustion, grief. Like you are empathizing with that customer.
Yes.
So
emotional labor.
move through it. Yeah. There you
I'm
go.
like, I'm literally going back to like my woo-woo wellness days, and I'm like, say it. Like, but it's
not woo-woo. Like,
no, it's not.
Really
it's real.
connects to the human part of business.
Guillaume's like, get me
I think
out.
we need to start for people to ask, add comments on the show, like wherever they watch it, and tell us if they have done that or if they want to try it and if they want to do it, like the impact of the
I think
dance party, the Zoom or
like,
adult dance party.
Overall, the idea is like just creating space to be silly and have fun. Send an emoji, send a meme to your group. Like it is work, yes, obviously.
Yes.
But where can you insert like fun and creativity and joy into that so that your team feels that energy and momentum?
On this vein, I'm thinking about like what my 10% fix would be because again, I'm bringing it back to myself as always.
Don't say that right now. Don't reveal it. Like you cannot say that. I mean, no, I mean you can if you want.
Okay,
It's just like you need
I'm
to
ready
keep
for
it
your
quiet.
10%.
My 10% fix. Encourage your team to take PTO. That's really important. And I feel like, again, sometimes when you're leading a team and you're looking at staffing forecasts, then, it's like reminding yourself of the humanity of, the org that you're running. And oftentimes people come back from vacation refreshed, excited, like tell people to take vacation.
Yep. The ROI on taking care of your humans is immeasurable. I mean, it is so, so valuable.
Yep. Totally. Well, speaking of taking care of our humans, tone and sentiment, right?
Yeah.
2 words that I feel like are, you're making a macro, you're creating routing rules, right? Phrasing, urgencies, the all caps, messages that we get. How have you gone about training teams to handle a very real, situation? And especially like, maybe you have an expert, but like how do you train a new agent on how to handle a situation like that?
Yeah, 100%. So I think outside of CX, I think sometimes the understanding is like, oh, if you just talk to your customers in a like kind and friendly and helpful way, everything is going to be okay. The reality is much more nuanced. Again, you're dealing with humans. You can't just map out, oh, this is exactly how they're going to respond, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's all caps, but they're not angry. Sometimes
True. Actually, no, they like might be not a digital native.
or like excited, right?
Oh, yeah, true.
Sometimes it's completely polite, but they're like saying something outrageous, right? And so I think helping, again, this is where like your work, I think, to me as a leader in CX, like, is how do you define those like boundaries and parameters and help create those buckets for your team of like, this is what an example of this looks like. You're not telling them this is what it will always look like, but you're starting to give them the path so that they can walk further and understand, okay, this is what it sort of looks like. That way they have a better idea when that comes in, right? And then based on that, you map out strategy to talk through how do you approach these customers, right?
Yes.
I think that's the psychology behind it. One, because then the agent they're not just getting an angry customer and they're like, oh, how do I figure this out? Like, do I just apologize? Right. And then 2, then
just
you're
replaying all cap.
no, I will not help you.
Sent from iPhone.
Refund processed. So the flip side to that is like the customers, obviously you have to understand their tone and where they're coming from. And you want the agents to be able to analyze those scenarios and go down those paths, right? Now, the other thing is that when you're responding to the customer, you can't respond the same way to everyone. And so the more you're able to bucket out those things and support your team again in saying, not this is how you respond all the time, but when you get a pattern, you're helping them identify the patterns so that they can then respond in a pattern. And that's the psychology piece of like, it's a little bit of chess. For example, if a customer is just confused and you over apologize, they might actually start thinking, oh yeah, actually I'm angry now.
Yeah.
Right? And so you have to, or if someone is actually angry, 100% validate their experience, support them, but also you have to give your team ground to stand on. If you tell them apologize all the time, they're not able to do their job well of advocating for the brand and trying to find the best solution for the customer, right? They're just apologize and refund, which has an impact on the business, right?
Something that I would do, because I really believe when it comes to running a big CX org, part of your role, again, as your employees are your customers, right? And it's rising tides raise all ships, right? How do we bring coaching and like, again, I know it sounds cringy, but like truly a culture of feedback front and center in CX teams where, you have peers, whether it's, we used to have a peer-to-peer internal quality program where everyone would, grade someone else's response. And, we would do weekly team huddles where we would actually, anonymous, go over, ticket examples and be like, open it up to everyone of like, what could we have done different here? And it's both celebratory. Why are you, what?
I'm thinking if you do this, it's anonymous and you recognize your ticket and you're like, that's my ticket. That's what I said.
It's also like an added of like, oh crap, it better not be one of mine. Yeah. But no, I mean, one, I think it sets the standard. Again, it's also you're picking these kind of blurry cases where you're walking through with the team. How would you have done this? Would you guys have done? And again, it's genuinely open for interpretation, but I think it is a really important aspect of being a CX leader and building these strategic teams that feel empowered to like acknowledge the nuance and to continue to flex that creative muscle of like, how could we have done this different? Should we have done anything different? Is this just a solid interaction? That's also setting an example, you know?
So 100%. I think it's like constant iteration.
Yeah.
And almost creating like an internal focus group.
Yeah.
And I think that also really helps agent morale because it's one thing to just like be given marching orders and just go and do it, right? But then you don't feel ownership in it.
100%.
You don't feel like you have control. You're just like doing what you were told. Whereas I think the teams that are doing CX really well are listening very deeply to what the agents are saying because they are picking up on the patterns.
100%.
They are saying, hey, when we said this, like you told us to, the customer wasn't happy, right? And so if you actually listen to them and take action or explain, hey, this is why we can't take action, I think, agents aren't like top at they're not at the highest level of the business, but they can still understand what's going on. And the more context and feedback you give, the more they understand why what they're doing is important and 100%. Have that ownership.
Yeah. And if you need like, again, what is the contact reason that is driving your escalations? Like what are agents saying that is driving escalations? And again, escalations being like, you need a top level, CX manager, director, whatever, to like get involved, right? Like, how did it get to this? Listening to your agents is, they are closer to the customer than you are, as you continue to progress in your leadership career.
Yeah.
Super important.
We're gonna bring a change here because I'm gonna talk about AI.
Let's do it.
I do this every day, so I have to bring it up. And you were big on emotion and on human and humanity and all the stuff you. I mean, awesome. But like, how do you? So AI is getting in there. How do you keep the humanity and the emotion that you talked about with AI at the moment?
Yeah, so I think it's being super intentional in building in your brand guidelines, your values as a brand, your goals, and your tone, right? I think that creates a really holistic experience from start to finish. And that's something that I've done across all of my roles is like, what is our brand voice and how do we carry that over from A to Z?
And you share the same one with the AI and the the team? Yeah,
100%. And I think the other piece, like talking about pattern recognition, who is better at pattern recognition?
I was going to ask you, because the amount of detail you mentioned about, caps, but not angry, how do you think the AI is doing at that?
I think it's doing a good job. And I think it's actually helpful because it provides a degree of separation. AI does not have emotions.
Yeah.
And so a human might get an all caps ticket and immediately react and say, oh, this person is angry.
Yeah.
AI doesn't care. And so it reads the subtext and says, okay, you know what this person, it's all caps, but what this person is saying is not actually angry. So I'm going to respond in a certain way, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm going to prompt a response. And I think this is also where like it's helpful for the human team too, like a Copilot or even ChatGPT. It provides a degree of separation from those really escalated emotional moments. Now, I'm not saying they should just drop in whatever ChatGPT says to respond, the Copilot says to respond, but it lets them process through the case. Sometimes just the mental and emotional fatigue of like, whoa, this customer is really angry. I don't know how I'm going to write this ticket. I don't know how I'm going to respond. Sometimes just having a thought partner a little bit or like an analysis partner with a degree of emotional separation just helps you look at it and be like, okay,
Copilot,
it's really true.
Exactly.
Copilot,
And I think
the amount of times I'm copying and pasting responses into Claude and being like, what would you say?
Right.
And it really is a tool because again, I think.
So I don't know how much you pushed AI right so far and like how much did you automate, but how do you feel you lose the touch on some of the, customer voice? Like, do you feel you lose some of it or like,
I think that's where it's really important to keep humans in the loop. Across all the roles that I've had where, we've used AI in different ways, I think having the humans iterate again on what they're receiving. And that's also where it's really important still to have strong humans on your team.
Yeah.
Because if someone doesn't know better, they're going to send a response that's not correct because the Copilot hallucinated or ChatGPT said something that's not in brand tone, right? Or policy. And so one is making sure that you're giving the right information to the AI. So that it can best support your team. And two is making sure that they're not relying on it. They're using it as a tool, but they're ultimately using their own judgment and their own EQ and their own IQ to make decisions.
And bring them into like the AI QA process, right?
Exactly.
I mean, we talked about this a little bit yesterday with our episode with Lior, but we put a field, for agents. If a ticket is handed over because the AI can't solve it, like agents are able to read back and see, ooh, this was weird, this was off. Flag that for reviews that you can then go and, take a look at whatever that flow is and ideally optimize. CX is like an organism that is living and breathing in every touch point channel, the tools, everything. And, it's important to be flexible and continue to iterate.
Yeah. 100%.
I'm reading our question here, and one question: what about what do you do to avoid burnouts? But I think for the team, but I think you did answer that one on the 10% fix, so we're definitely gonna skip that. I think we are basically toward the end here, and last question here. It's about for people watching us or listening to us, like anything you wish yourself you will know when you started the job that is helping you a lot right now, and that you will pass on that knowledge in CX to manage. We talked a lot about emotions. It could be about emotion. It could be anything in CX that you wish people will have known.
Yeah, I think it's really important as a CX leader to both have that emotional depth and understanding, right? So you can meet your customers' needs and meet your team's needs. And I think it's also important to have that strategy. That's a muscle that you can train, right?
Yeah.
Like you go to the gym and you do leg day, CXers do emotional day, right?
Yeah.
And so how do we train upper body more? And how do we focus on like the metrics, right? And I think that is something that is really important to work on, because that's actually how you advocate for changes. And we talk about CX getting a seat at the table. I think that's something that comes up a lot in CX communities, and that's how you do it, is by proving the math, proving the ROI, looking at LTV. And it's also just incredibly interesting, again, from the data itself shows you so much about the work that you're doing, and the emotions are fascinating, but the data behind it is too.
Yeah. When you say, I'm sorry. Ooh, can I ask a question? Okay, sorry. Metrics. So, again, this is, we're CSAT. Is it a reflection of company policy, or is it actually, an agent quality issue, right? You have, I don't know, first response time, competing with, one-touch ticket percentage, right? Like, what is a metric that you really believe encapsulates a good holistic customer experience? Like, what is your kind of go-to?
Yeah, I don't think there is one metric, and I think that's the trap.
Yeah, agreed.
I think it's so easy to be like, oh, if I just look at this one thing and this one thing is doing well, then everything's fine. It's not. It's an ecosystem, right? You have to look at all the different pieces and how they fit together. And you also have to have an understanding of like, if CSAT drops.
Yeah.
Why? What went up, right?
Yes.
And so I think understanding, again, that Goldilocks theory of like, what is the balance for you? Of what are the different things that you prioritize as a business, as a CX leader? And how do you figure out, which metrics are your sort of key metrics, and which metrics are supporting metrics that are sort of like signals that give you insight into, right? Like, why is CSAT down? That's such a difficult question. It's like, oh no, one thing is down. How do I go find the answer? Look at all the other things around it and see, okay, what changed there? Because that's often the answer, right?
Absolutely. Caroline, thank you so much for joining us today. This was such a lovely conversation. Where can people follow you, learn more, hear more?
You can find me on LinkedIn at Caroline Owen Wilson.
Incredible. Thank you for joining us for another episode of CX After Hours. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Share this with friends. We are on YouTube. Leave a comment, leave a review, and we will see you next time on CX After Hours. Ciao.